She will never lose sleep over the man she fully understands. Her mind doesn't linger on the man whose every move she can predict, whose feelings she can read like an open book. But the one who confuses her just enough to stay interesting, the one whose emotions she can't quite pin down, that's the man who lives in her head at 3:15. Machiavelli once said that power isn't about being loved or feared. It's about controlling what the other person feels when you're no longer in the room. There is a psychological dance here, a quiet war of emotional tension that few understand but many have felt. It's not about manipulation. It's about presence, precision, energy. And if you learn to master this energy, she won't just think about you. She'll crave you, chase you, and fight to keep you. What's most fascinating is this. She'll believe it's all her idea. That spark, that fire, that impulse to fight for your attention, she'll think it came from within her. That's the genius of it. You don't tell her to desire you. You simply create the conditions where desire grows. And desire doesn't grow in comfort. It doesn't thrive in predictability or still waters. Desire is born in uncertainty, in tension, in the subtle friction between not knowing and wanting to know more. If you make her feel too secure, too certain, too sure she has you no matter what, you kill the very thing that makes her heart beat faster when she sees your name pop up. You steal the unknown from the equation, and with it, the thrill. She might like you, she might smile when she sees you, she might even care deeply. But care is not the same as desire. One comforts, the other excites. And attraction doesn't die with a bang. It dies in silence, slowly, when there's nothing left to wonder about. A woman only fights for what she fears she could lose. The second she knows she's won you completely, the effort fades. It's not out of malice or cruelty. It's human instinct. Think back to any goal you've ever chased. A promotion, a competition, a dream. The energy came from the possibility of not getting it. That uncertainty fueled your motivation. Once it was secured, once the outcome was guaranteed, the fire cooled. Attraction is no different. When you're always there, always replying, always available, you provide reassurance. But reassurance is the enemy of desire when given in excess. Her nervous system relaxes, her emotional vigilance turns off, and in that calmness, the thrill dissolves. You become liked, but not craved, comfortable, but not magnetic. What you want is that sweet spot between certainty and doubt. Too much comfort and desire vanishes. Too much uncertainty and trust evaporates. The magic happens in the balance. She must feel that you are a choice, not a given. That your presence is something she earns, not something you hand over freely. There is an addiction to uncertainty. It's built into our psychology. We are drawn to what we cannot predict. We binge suspense. We get addicted to that unread message. We obsess over what is just out of reach. The man who gives her certainty earns appreciation. She may thank him. She may respect him. But gratitude is still. And stillness is not the birthplace of obsession. The man who gives her just enough uncertainty, who makes her wonder, guess, anticipate, he ignites something entirely different. This is the paradox so many never grasp. They believe that love is about transparency, full access, full exposure. They confess every thought, explain every move, and give away every emotion too soon. They confuse honesty with availability. But when you strip away mystery, you strip away the very mechanism that keeps her mind invested. And when her mind detaches, her heart follows. She might still show up. She might stay. But her attention? It begins to drift, reaching toward that flicker of uncertainty she can't find in you anymore. Uncertainty doesn't mean playing games. It doesn't mean lies or cruelty. It means never giving yourself away entirely. It means letting her chase a little, letting her guess, keeping just enough of your energy in reserve that she never fully feels like she owns all of you. Predictability is comfort, and comfort is the death of craving. The man who balances connection with distance becomes the man she thinks about long after he leaves the room. He gives her moments of closeness, but never all at once. She doesn't know if he'll call tomorrow, and that not knowing keeps her eyes locked on the door, her mind pacing. Machiavelli understood a principle most men forget. Anything too available loses value. It's not about money or looks or status. It's about scarcity. The rare becomes sacred. The abundant becomes ignored. If you give a woman endless access to your time, your attention, your emotions, you blend into the background. She may appreciate you. She may even say you're a good man. But she won't feel the burn. She won't feel the need to fight for you, because there's nothing to lose, no risk, no urgency. And without urgency, desire cools. Controlled access is the strategy. Let her close, but not too close. Let her feel your presence, but not so constantly that she assumes it's permanent. You become a memory when you're not always present. You become a craving when you step back at the height of connection. When you pull away at the right moment, not to punish, but to create space, you awaken something primal. She begins to anticipate the next moment. She remembers your words longer. Your absence becomes louder than your presence ever was. The man who is always available is quickly forgotten. He replies instantly. He praises excessively. He shares openly without requiring anything in return. It feels noble, but it communicates one thing clearly. You've already won me. The game is over. Machiavelli would call this a strategic error. Once she believes she's already won, she stops playing. And if she's no longer playing, you're no longer being pursued. You've become the reward already collected. And we don't chase what we've already claimed. The more you invest beyond her level, the more you kill the very tension that desire requires. Overinvestment is fatal. The man who gives 100% while she gives 50% doesn't inspire devotion. He inspires disinterest, because there's no longer anything to earn. Her emotional effort is no longer needed. And when effort isn't needed, effort disappears. Desire lives in balance. You meet her halfway, not more. You match her pace, not race ahead. If she takes her time, you do the same. If she opens up slowly, you mirror that rhythm. This is not manipulation, it's equilibrium. It keeps the chase alive. It keeps both sides leaning forward. But when you lean too far, you fall. And when you fall, she walks. Dependence is a silent killer. When your energy says, "I need you," her subconscious says, "I own you." There's no longer any suspense, no tension, no stakes. You've made her your emotional center, and that's not romantic. It's pressure, and pressure suffocates desire. But when you stand in your own power, when you show her, "I want you, but I don't need you," everything shifts. That's where your gravity comes from. That's what makes her want to orbit you. You become the man with his own center of gravity. The man who doesn't chase, but attracts. You look at her and say without words, "Your presence excites me, but your absence won't break me." That self-possession, that quiet strength, makes you rare. And in a world flooded with neediness, rare is magnetic, because it signals choice, not desperation. When your attention is a privilege, not a promise, she values every second of it. She leans in closer, not because you begged her to, but because she senses that you could vanish at any moment. This isn't about coldness. It's about contrast. One moment, you're deeply present. The next, you're unreachable, pursuing your mission, your craft, your life. You show her intimacy, then autonomy, connection, then distance. and that contrast burns itself into her memory. Most men orbit. You don't. You are the sun, the center, the force, and she senses it. Mystery, when used wisely, becomes your strongest ally. It's not silence, it's not vague manipulation, it's the art of leaving space. You don't answer every question, you leave a thread for her to pull. You don't flood her with confessions, you let her imagine what lies behind your smile, that slight unreadability in your eyes. That's what she replays. That's what keeps her thinking about you when you're not in the room. The brain hates unfinished stories. It needs closure. And if you leave just enough unfinished, she stays hooked, writing your story in her mind again and again. That's where obsession is born, not from answers, but from the lack of them. Most men stay too long. They linger. They overstay their emotional welcome, but the man who disappears at the right moment leaves a vacuum, an absence that echoes. She was laughing. She was engaged. And then, you're gone. And that void? It lingers. That emotional hunger stays. She didn't get to finish the meal, and now she's starving for more. Disappearance isn't about punishment, it's about timing. The moment to leave is the moment before she's ready. The space you create doesn't stay empty. It gets filled with thoughts of you, curiosity, wonder, craving. You don't become more valuable by being present all the time. You become more valuable by knowing exactly when to leave. And when the world is full of men flooding her inbox, giving her likes, comments, emojis, validation, your absence becomes more powerful than their presence. You become the exception, the rarity, not because of how much you give, but because of how little you need to. A diamond is not rare because it's beautiful. It's rare because it's scarce. If it rained diamonds tomorrow, no one would care, but one that's hard to find, one that requires effort to earn, that's the one she treasures. Your presence, when measured and intentional, becomes the diamond she'll fight to keep. The man she chases is the one who knows his worth, who doesn't offer it to anyone who simply asks. He makes her feel lucky, not certain. And in that shadow of possible loss, desire is born, not through fear, but through contrast, through knowing that he could stay, but only by choice, not by need, not by dependence, not by weakness. She will fight to keep the man who doesn't fight for her, because he never made her feel like she already had him. She'll cling to what she feels she might lose. That's human nature. That's psychology. That's power. And that power? It's always been yours. You hold the power not by force, not by pressure, but by presence. A presence she can feel, but not hold completely. That's what makes it addictive. That's what turns a passing interest into a persistent thought. It's not about being aloof or unavailable, it's about being selective. When everyone else is trying to be seen, you become the one she notices by how confidently you vanish. You create contrast, you create silence, and in that silence, she hears your value louder than any words you've ever spoken. Understand this, abundance is invisible, scarcity is magnetic. If she feels she can have you whenever, however, without effort or intention, she will not value you. She may like you, she may keep you around, but her mind will be elsewhere, on the man she can't fully read, on the one she isn't sure about, the one who leaves just enough of a question mark to pull her deeper, not out of manipulation, but out of basic human nature. This is why you don't give all of yourself immediately, not because you're afraid, but because what is earned is treasured, and what is given too freely is discarded. Machiavelli would say, never let anyone believe they have all of you, because the part they can't reach, that's the part they'll always want the most. And in relationships, that truth is undeniable. The man who holds a little back who protects the final pieces of his soul, not as a defense but as a standard, becomes unforgettable. She wants to discover you, not collect you. She wants to pull you in slowly, uncovering layers she didn't know existed. But if you hand everything over in the first week, there's nothing left to uncover, no story to unravel, no secrets to pull from you. And without that curiosity, she stops leaning in. She stops wondering. She stops chasing. Because the destination is already clear. And when the destination is clear, the journey ends. The fatal mistake most men make is overgiving. Not just gifts or compliments, but attention, vulnerability, energy. It feels generous. It feels sincere. But it sends the wrong message. It says, "You already have me. I've chosen you. There's nothing left for you to earn." Right? And when she hasn't earned it, when she didn't have to fight for it, she doesn't value it the same. Think about anything in your life that you earned through blood, sweat, and time. You still remember how it felt. Now think about what was handed to you. Gone. Forgotten. Women are the same. They don't treasure what's given too quickly. They invest in what challenges them, what makes them grow, what makes them feel like they're stepping up to earn something rare. So when you give more than she gives, when your texts are longer, your replies faster, your emotions more exposed, you tip the scale. She's no longer leaning in. She's leaning back, watching, evaluating, losing tension. And that tension? That's everything. You want to know how to keep a woman thinking about you for days? Leave her wondering. Give her a moment that felt perfect, and then disappear before she can ruin it. Leave her wanting more. Walk away when her heart is still racing, when her eyes are still searching for the next move. That's when your absence becomes unforgettable. Not because you ghosted, but because you understood the power of timing. Most men stay too long. They flood her with attention, thinking that more means better. But more only dilutes the experience. She doesn't miss what never leaves. If you're always available, always replying, always pouring energy into her without checking her level of investment, she won't see it as devotion. She'll see it as dependence. And dependence is not attractive. It's heavy. It's claustrophobic. It screams, "I've already decided. You're the one. Just don't leave." That's not power. That's surrender. The man who stands in his power doesn't cling. He connects deeply, but he remains untethered. Not emotionally numb, but emotionally independent. He lets her know he enjoys her, but never that he needs her to feel whole. His happiness is not tied to her validation. His self-worth is not on the line. And that balance, that confidence, that's what makes her heartbeat quicken when he walks in. That's what makes her check her phone when he walks out. She's not chasing because she's insecure. She's chasing because something inside her is activated. Not fear, not manipulation, but desire. Real desire. The kind that makes her think about him at 2 a.m., replaying his words, analyzing his silences. That's what you create when you hold your ground. When you live your life and let her earn her place in it. Your time becomes sacred. Your presence becomes rare. Your energy becomes something she wants, not something you beg her to accept. That's the man who flips the script, who shifts the dynamic, who creates emotional gravity. He doesn't have to explain himself constantly. He doesn't have to prove his worth. He simply is. And that is enough to make her wonder if she can hold on. Mystery plays a vital role here. It's not about being evasive. It's about being compelling. It's about leaving space in the story. Most men are too eager to explain every feeling, to lay their entire emotional history on the table. But the brain doesn't crave closure when it already has all the answers. It craves it when a few pieces are missing. You want her to ask questions. You want her to wonder. That's what creates pursuit. So next time she asks about your past, don't give a speech. Share a piece. Let her imagination fill in the rest. When you compliment her, don't say something predictable. Say something ambiguous. There's something about you tonight. I can't decide if it's good or dangerous. Let the tension hang in the air. Let her curiosity bloom. You're not being confusing. You're being captivating. And here's the twist. The more she thinks, the more she feels. The more she wonders, the more she invests. Emotion follows thought. If she's thinking about you constantly, her emotions begin to attach. Her body follows her mind. That's how you become more than a man. You become a presence, a story, an unresolved question she needs to answer. But none of this works if you overstay. If you linger past the high point, you dissolve the magic. You replace mystery with monotony. The most powerful move is the exit at the peak, the perfectly timed withdrawal. She was laughing. She was interested. Then you're gone. Not out of arrogance, but out of understanding. You know what she doesn't? That space creates longing. That space makes her chase. That space makes her need. Think about this. When someone's full, they stop eating. But if you remove the plate halfway through the meal, their hunger lingers. That's how you leave her, halfway through the moment. Not to be cruel, but to make her crave what comes next. And that craving, that's the fire that keeps her running toward you. Machiavelli understood this principle of controlled absence, not just in politics, but in presence. A ruler seen too often loses respect. A man seen too often loses magnetism. The wise one knows when to appear and when to vanish. You don't become rare by never being there. You become rare by being unforgettable when you are, and unreachable when she wants more too quickly. The average man gives too much too soon. He offers his whole self in the first act. But the rare man lets the story unfold slowly. He gives a glimpse, then turns away. He shares a truth, then goes silent. And that silence echoes. That silence draws her in. That's not manipulation. That's magnetism. And magnetism, when understood, does what words never could. It makes her chase. To make her chase, you don't chase. You don't beg, you don't plead, and you certainly don't overgive. You lead, with presence, with discipline, with self-control. She feels your interest, but never your desperation. She senses your attention, but knows it's not endless. That subtle distance, that controlled access, is what turns you from just another man into the one her mind refuses to forget. Most men are everywhere, flooding her inbox, liking every photo, watching every story, always available, always reacting, always there. And because they're always there, she doesn't see them. They're background noise, static, predictable. And predictable never burns. Predictable doesn't ignite. Predictable is comfortable. But comfort is the quiet assassin of passion. To be unforgettable, you must become the rarity. Not because you're trying to be aloof, not because you're playing cold-hearted games, but because you value yourself so deeply that you don't hand your energy to just anyone. You move with intention. You communicate when it matters. And you never need to prove your worth. You embody it. She doesn't chase the man with perfect abs or perfect lines. She chases the one who makes her feel something no one else can, the one who gives her moments that feel rare, who creates space, then closes it just enough to leave her guessing, who lets her wonder where she stands. Not to hurt her, but to keep her engaged. And here's the truth. She doesn't even know why she's chasing. She'll think it's her idea, that she just clicked with you, that there's something about you she can't put her finger on. She won't realize that what she's responding to is intention. Emotional depth balanced by emotional independence. Vulnerability without neediness. Presence without pressure. You create a feeling, not with words, but with energy. The energy that says, I enjoy you, but I don't need you. You excite me, but I remain whole with or without you. That's the energy that keeps her awake at night, staring at her phone, wondering why you haven't messaged back. That's what flips the roles. That's what makes her invest, not because you asked, but because she feels compelled. And when you live like this, not just pretend, but embody it, everything about you changes. You walk differently, you talk differently, you look at her differently. You're no longer performing. You're simply existing in a way that radiates worth. And that worth doesn't beg for validation. It selects who is worthy of access. A rare man lives like this. He doesn't need to be loud. He doesn't need to dominate the room. He simply knows who he is, and more importantly, who he is not. He doesn't need every woman to want him. He just needs the right one to earn him. And that's what changes the entire story. Most men give their power away the moment they feel affection. They start adjusting, apologizing, compromising too early. They stop leading and start reacting. They lose themselves in pursuit of being accepted, and in that loss, they become invisible. But the man who holds the frame, who remains rooted in who he is regardless of how beautiful, smart, or charming she is, becomes irreplaceable. He doesn't fold under her gaze. He doesn't melt just because she smiles. He appreciates her, but remains unmoved by superficiality. He waits to see her depth, her intention, her willingness to give, not just take. And when she senses that your attention is not a guarantee, but a reward, something shifts inside her. She slows down. She leans in. She begins to calibrate herself, not around the fear of rejection, but around the possibility of losing something truly rare. She doesn't want to feel that absence again. So she gives. She invests. She starts doing what so many men have done for her, chasing. But this only happens when your value isn't told, but felt. She must feel that your time is earned, that your emotions are guarded, not out of fear, but out of wisdom, that your world is full, with or without her. And when she enters it, she's stepping into something complete. That's attractive. That's magnetic. That's unforgettable. This is where most men fail. They try to impress before they've even been invited into her life. They overexpress. They overshare. They overgive. And by the time she feels anything real, there's no tension left. No challenge. No mystery. Just comfort. And comfort is what she gets from a warm blanket, not a man she dreams about at night. You must become the kind of man she tells her friends about, not because of what you said, but because of how you made her feel. She can't explain it. She just knows she thinks about you more than she expected. She's checking her phone more often. She's replaying your last conversation. She's rereading your last message. That's not by accident. That's by design. When you know how to create that emotional experience, not by manipulation, but by mastering yourself, you unlock a different level of connection, one that makes her invest not just physically, but emotionally, one that makes her not just want to be around you, but feel like she has to work to stay in your orbit. And here's the most important truth you'll ever need. People value what they work for, what they earn, what they have to chase. If she didn't have to earn you, she won't value you. If you were too easy, too open, too quick to give everything, she won't protect it. But if she had to lean in, if she had to wonder, if she had to put in effort just to get your time, she will do anything to not lose it again. Desire without dependence, connection without attachment, power without pressure. That's what makes a man unforgettable. That's what turns a good woman into a woman who fights for you, not because you asked her to, but because she can't stand the idea of not having you in her life. Machiavelli would call it controlling the frame. Because once you hold the frame, you guide the dynamic. You set the emotional tone. You decide where it goes and how deep it gets. And most importantly, you never let your value be questioned. You never allow your time to become too accessible, your emotions too exposed, or your energy too cheap. You keep something for yourself, not to keep her out, but to remind her that you are whole, that you are a complete man, that you live with or without her, that your love, if she earns it, is powerful, but never desperate. That's what makes her chase. That's what makes her hold on. That's what makes her terrified of losing you, not because of what you give her, but because of what she feels when you're not there. That feeling, the quiet shadow of loss, is what lingers. That's what makes you the rarity in a world full of men trying too hard. You don't need to be the most handsome, the richest, or the smoothest. You just need to be the man who moves differently, who knows himself, who controls the frame. And when you do, you don't just capture her attention, you capture her